The first time that I ever tried to keep a journal was when I was 11 years old. I got one of those diaries from a newsagent, and my aim was to write in it every day, just talk about the stuff that I was doing. And being 11 years old, wasn't that much more exciting than just playing computer games or hanging out with friends or riding bikes with the kids in the neighbourhood, that sort of stuff. I think I got to the second week of February, and then I just gave up, got out of the habit of it, and that was it. And by March, there was nothing in that diary for the rest of the year. And that was my first attempt at keeping a journal. Skip forward many years later, and I borrowed an old mate's copy of the Heroin Diaries, and it's from a year in Nicky Sixx's life of Motley Crue. And he documents his whole downward spiral through drug abuse, and it very nearly cost him his life. But just some crazy stories in there, as you would expect. This is from when Motley Crue were at their peak. But it inspired me because I thought to myself, you know what? I should start keeping a journal. Just document what's going on and the people that I'm hanging with and what we're getting up to, because I think that in the future this is going to be something to look back on, and I'll get a better idea of what I was doing and remember all these little things that I might have otherwise forgotten. And yeah, in the 10 years since, I've kept a journal. I don't write in it every day, but there's been periods where I haven't written anything for even a few weeks. But I try to update an entry every day if I can, ideally. So I just wanted to quickly give you a few reasons why you should also be journaling, because I've seen the benefits of it myself. And even if you don't write professionally, even if it's just a hobby for you, or even if you're just somebody who likes to share stories with people, if you're somebody who has that nostalgic streak in you, you will love keeping a journal the more time goes on. So first of all is that a journal actually helps you to track your progress. If you're keeping a record, like let's say that you go to the gym and you're keeping a record of the routines that you're doing, or maybe you're in dance and you're talking about the routines that you're learning there, or you play a musical instrument and you list what you're currently learning, like different scales or different tunes that you're learning. It's just a great way to document your progress as you move forward, because sometimes you can take for granted a bit just how much better you are at your craft than you used to be. And it's not until you go back and you look at it and you go, oh yeah, I remember when that was like my heaviest lift, and I remember like how much I was struggling with that, or yeah, I remember that song and it was so difficult to get these chords right. And it can just feel funny to actually remember when that was difficult for you, because now it's quite easy for you, isn't it? And that's the great thing about keeping a journal, is that you really get to appreciate your progress over time. The second reason is that keeping a regular journal, it helps you to remember key details, helps you to remember milestones and events. I don't know if you've ever had it happen where you're trying to remember maybe a holiday or a party or a certain discussion that you had with a friend, and you've got fond memories of it, but you can't quite place when it was, or some minor detail, and it's just frustrating because you're trying to rack your brain trying to remember that detail, and you can't quite get there. But if you're keeping a regular journal, then obviously you're going to be mentioning those details. So if you've got some vague idea of when it happened or what was going on, you can go back, you can search through your old journals, and then you can go, there it is, yeah, and that's exactly what happened. And then suddenly you see things that you wrote down at the time that you'd just plain forgotten. And it's always a nice little surprise when you read back over old journal entries and then you see something that you'd forgotten about, and you're like, oh, that's right, I remember so-and-so did that, or I remember saying that, or yeah, God, I remember that movie, and I remember that date, or I remember that event. And it's nice. It's nice to sometimes go back and reflect, and to do so with more than just those hazy memory clouds that you have. When you keep a journal and you're actually writing stuff down, then you can go back and you can see it for yourself. You can see it written at the time, and if you've written it when it happened, then obviously it's going to be a more accurate representation of what actually happened than years down the track trying to recollect it. Because as much as we all like to think that we remember stuff well, there's always those little things that slip by. Last of all is that, surprise, surprise, it improves your writing skills. I go back to when I first started keeping a journal. I look back just to the way that I wrote. And I don't know how obvious it would be to you guys, but I know when I go through and I read it, I notice little things. I notice the way that I used to write, and I look at how I write now, and I can see a definite improvement just in, I guess, in the way that I structure sentences and the way that I record stuff, and it flows on into the writing that I do for clients and the writing that I do for myself on a daily basis. So it has that positive flow-on effect, and it will have the same effect for you as well with your writing. Your writing can only improve if you're regularly keeping a journal. So those would be the big three. Those would be the big three takeaway points for this. Is that you should keep a journal because it helps you to track your progress. It helps you to remember all the key events and milestones and details. And the more that time goes on, the more grateful you will be that you actually made a record of it. And also, it improves your writing skills. Aside from that, I definitely recommend that you type it out on a Word document or something as opposed to just writing it. I mean, yeah, writing is a good exercise for the brain, but if you type stuff out, then you can go back and edit it if you realise that you missed out a key detail, you got something wrong. And something that I do is that I start a new journal every year, but you can break it up. Maybe you can break it up into certain months of the year or whatever, but I start a brand new journal at the beginning of every year as a Word document and then save it at the end of the year and archive it. But let me know how you go with it, guys. Do you currently keep a journal? Could you be writing in it more often? Could you perhaps change the format? Make it as easy as possible to document stuff. Oh yeah, just before I forget, you might be asking, well, what do I write about? What do I talk about? And this is something that I have struggled with because I have a tendency to write more than perhaps is necessary. And just for the sake of brevity, I've found a very minimalist approach is good. It's generally I just try to keep the details of a particular day just into a couple of sentences. You know, woke up, had breakfast, did this work for X client, spoke to this other client, spoke to this lead. Then on a new paragraph, I'll talk about something else. I'll talk about an event that I went to, where it was, when it was, who I spoke to, hobbies, that sort of thing. Also list those. Just make it like start a new paragraph for every different detail of your day. You don't have to go into great detail about those events. There might be times where you want to talk more about your thoughts or feelings or something, and those times will come, but not every day has to be like that. Just an outline of your day. That's all you really need to do. Just talk about the main things that you did. If you're training or if you're learning something, talk about what you're learning there. If you're watching a TV show or a movie, talk about the movie and your thoughts on it. Just list those things. Just list those key details in a given day, and that will help you. And yeah, those longer entries, they will come. Just if you can keep it to that and don't burden yourself too heavily with having to list every single little detail, just the cliff notes, then that will help you to journal consistently. See how you go with that, guys. Maybe you're already keeping a journal and you just want to get better at journaling, or maybe this is your inspiration to go away and start a journal. And like I said, I can't recommend strongly enough that you go and do it because you'll thank me in the years to come. See how you go with it, guys. Let me know what you reckon. As always, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, then what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe and hit the button. And share this video with anybody that you think should start keeping a journal. Until next time, catch you later.